In this lecture, I'm going to talk about a GLUT4. So, what is GLUT4? GLUT4 is essentially glucose transporters. Okay, glucose transporters found in most mammalian cells. It is a member of the GLUT family. So we have a GLUT1, we have a GLUT2, we have a GLUT3. That they have a different specific functions, but they all share a primary function, and that is to transport glucose. Okay, so they all transport glucose. So in this lecture, I'm going to just briefly talk about what is GLUT4 and where it's being found. So it is primarily found in the adipose tissue, which is a fat tissue. So we have adipose tissue. We also have a skeletal muscles, alright? So it's like a biceps or like a, your legs, skeletal muscles. Okay? So it is being found there. So what it is though? So it is being primarily mediated by an insulin. Okay, so we have an insulin. So the insulin is a hormone. So let me write it with blue. So we have an insulin mediated transporter. So what do we mean by that? So you see, if you eat a food, so you need energy to go to your muscles for you contracting it, right? So you need the muscle, you need the energy for this source. And the primary energy source is glucose, isn't it? And which will be travel to the, for example, glycolysis and for to produce energy, which is ATP. So we have this glucose, but how can it get inside the muscle? So imagine this is our muscle, a skeletal muscle. And upon reaching that, we will synthesize, we will build up a hormone insulin. Okay, so insulin would be, so imagine this is the membrane. This is a membrane, right? This is a skeletal muscle cells. So hormone insulin would be synthesized. Okay. And upon synthesizing the insulin hormone, it would go ahead and bind to this receptor. Okay, so it would go and bind. So this is insulin, and the red one is the receptor. Insulin receptor. So, and upon doing so, there will be many details. Okay, there will be a ton of details. For example, it can be secondary message. It would be called a series of different cascade reactions would go. But the key point here is that upon doing so, the series of cascade will lead to the small vesicles. Okay, so we have these small vesicles containing the GLUT4 channel, GLUT4 transporter, which is a uniporter, by the way. So they have this GLUT4 these two GLUT4s would be called. Okay, so we have the insulin binding the receptors, series of cascade reaction would occur, and this cascade reaction will result in the vesicle exocytose. What does exocytose mean? Essentially leaving this inside the cell to outside the cell, leaving it to here, making exocytose, for example. Think of that something, and essentially leave to formation of the GLUT on the surface, isn't it? So we will form the GLUT4. So this is GLUT4 being formed on the membrane of the skeletal muscle cells. So we have that now. So then we have the glucose particles, which is floating around outside the skeletal muscle here. These are like glucose molecules. They go and bind to this and travel down to concentration gradient. So here, this is a uniporter. So it cause a conformational change upon binding so that they can, this glucose once upon bonded to this outward conformation, it will hardly make it unstable so that it will change the conformation in a way that would go down the concentration gradient. Let me show it down here. Okay, so it will go down the concentration gradient. It will change the conformation. So for example, if it's from here, then it will be something like that. Okay, so that it releases the glucose down. Okay, so the glucose. So it is essentially, that's it. So it functions in bringing the glucose into the muscle cells, where that, for example, then can go to glycolysis if it goes into the mitochondria and etc. to produce ATP. Okay, that's the primary reason. And this is why, for example, in diabetes too, where they cannot synthesize insulin, they inject it, like they buy like a syringe and they inject it themselves, because they need that glucose to be able to live, don't they? Because they need the glucose for muscle conversion and synthesis. Otherwise, that's why they would take insulin supplement, take insulin syringes, so they can insert the insulin within themselves, so that they can have this reaction to be proceeded and the sufficient glucose to come in and get their life going, pretty much. And that is essentially what it is. Let me just write it here. It is important in diabetes 2 type, right? Can't synthesize insulin on themselves, right? Which is, yeah. And then which require one. So I hope you guys found this video helpful.